Resistance is futile.
Boldly going where no show has gone before. This is The Week in Geek with David D. Squared and Brian Held. Heard live on News Talk 99.5 WRNO and the iHeartRadio app. Here are your hosts, Brian Held and D. Squared.
Greetings, people of Earth. This is The Week in Geek, your source for geek and pop culture news that's trending now. I'm your host, D Squared, along with
Brian Held.
What's up, Bookaroo?
Oh, man, just another great weekend. You know,
was it? Are you just paying lip service to the weekend?
No. Last night I was out with the folks from the crew of Really Awesome Parodies.
Puke.
No, it's crap.
Crap. Oh, yeah, puke,
yes.
crap. I don't know, whatever.
Right. No, puke is the people for the inclusion of unicorns, elves, and winebots and Chewbacca's. Right?
Okay.
Get it straight.
All right. I'm completely lost now.
Regardless, they were out having their crappy cardboard costume crawl, a little pub crawl through the quarter, and it's a bit of a fundraiser for their parading activities when Chewbacca rolls around. So we had a good time. There was a costume contest. I helped judge it.
Oh,
so yeah,
swell.
It was swell. So,
all right, let's lay out the show
all
real
right.
quick. We'll open up the show as we always do with top nerd news, followed by a very special guest.
Yeah, we have Mr. Paul Scanlan from Legion M. That is, of course, the fan-fueled film production company out of L.A.
Fan-fueled? Did you just make that up on the spot?
I did, but it's...
Good on you.
Well, thanks. But that's what it is fans have an opportunity to invest in this company and then produce the films that they want to see. And isn't that what we constantly talk about with this reboot culture of Hollywood?
That is very true, because we'll touch on that again in Top Nerd News.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, we'll close it all out with This Week in Geek History.
But first... And now, your top nerd news stories from around the world, brought to you by the Viridian Tea Company. Find them on Etsy. And now, your top nerd news stories. All righty, Brian. I thought we had a reboot in here. I was going to change things up on you, but I thought we had a reboot in here somewhere. Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got new cast members and everything. They casted new people for the new Mortal Kombat movie coming out in 2021, 2020? Like late 2020, something like that.
Right. March 5th, 2021, yes.
Yeah, see, look, I knew something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's exactly what you wanted. It's new content. It's more new Mortal Kombat.
No? No.
But they've got new people playing the actors.
Haven't we said everything that we needed to say with the previous
Mortal Kombat? Dun, dun, dun.
Uh-huh, right.
I should have had that song ready to go. Why I don't have that in our repertoire is beyond me either.
It used to be.
Did it? No, it was a rejoin.
Oh, it was?
Wow, we've already derailed the show.
We have. But yeah, so no plot details are known at present, but there is a reboot, and it's going to feature fatalities. I think we talked about this a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean... Okay, great.
Right.
Fatality, yeah. I want friendships.
Oh, geez.
And animalities.
Now, look, stop, Hollywood. Just quit it. Give us... So, actually, I'm surprised you started with that, but why don't we just dig into the Star Wars stuff? Because, I have so many notes here, I don't even know what's happening because there's so much Star Wars news, and it all seems bad.
Well, here's the thing, and I wanted to try something new today because, one of the things with this Star Wars saga that's going on is that, in essence, I wanted to talk with you and the audience really about the decline of Star Wars. And I think really it started way back when they put out The Force Awakens, and they basically tried to make Star Wars A New Hope Part Deuce, and then just really over the top. You got a new Death Star that's the size of a planet, and it can kill 7 planets in one blow, and blah, blah, blah. And then after that, you got the Star Wars, the
Last Jedi.
Right. And then shortly thereafter, 6 months later, you get Solo.
Right.
And those two movies so close together, and then them not being great movies, they might have made a whole boatload of cash, but on the whole, they were not well received by a lot of the fan base, the people that really love Star Wars.
Right.
So then you take that together, and then you look at the toy sales, which have been declining. And then you look at Galaxy's Edge that opened up in California.
Right.
And right now, we reported on it last week where you have people's hours being cut because they're not getting the reception and the people coming through the turnstiles to go to this overpriced gift shop is in essence what it is.
Well, they had said that they jacked up the ticket
sales,
prices and sort of made queues for things in order to better manage the people that they thought, the deluge that they thought they were going to get.
Right.
And apparently it completely backfired in their face.
Then you take on the fact that they were supposed to have 2 rides. They didn't. They only have the one. They're working on that. Then there was a lot of hubbub about how it was a fully immersive experience where you could take on the role of a smuggler or whatever. And there was all these kind of things that was supposed to make the experience more than just a ride,
Right.
But my son went out there, like he FaceTimed me. I don't know if I've told the audience this before, but it's immaculate. It's beautiful. It's a Star Wars fan's great dream to see all these things. But after you do this one ride, it's literally just gift shops. You've got thermal detonator Cokes, and then you've got lightsabers for sale. So then you take that and the money that Disney has been bringing in. When they saw their toy sales decline, they started moving things around and shuffling it around. So they put their ticket sales along with their toy sales and kind of merged it. And with some of the bumps of the theme parks as a whole, because the international theme parks have been doing gangbusters, like Disney Paris and all that.
Right.
They're doing well. And so they're kind of taking the numbers and doing some creative accounting work. And
Right.
that's really what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they hide it, and it's like, oh, look, we're still doing well. But when you take Star Wars and what the money they're making off of the toys, how they've canceled all these projects, Brian. I mean, that's something that you and I have talked about, where after the Solo movie, thank God, they shelved the Obi-Wan Kenobi movie. They shelved the Boba Fett movie.
Well, and I think we're going to get some of that when Disney Plus arrives.
That might be their savior. I think that's the whole silver lining of this conversation.
I do, and we can get on that in a second, but you're right. Like the Star Wars Resistance was just canceled.
Yes, perfect, right. And this, I have yet to see it, but I watched the trailer for season 2 today.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why have I not watched this? I mean, it looks amazing, and it's great storytelling, and it's happening between The Last Jedi and the Rise of Skywalker. That's the final one? I think The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah. So it takes place between that. Now, let's just say if they would have come out earlier and said, hey, this is going to be a short series, and then we'll do another series after The Rise of Skywalker and maybe chronicle the times after that, that'd have been cool. But when you take all these simple little things, you pull them and you put them together, it's not painting a pretty picture for what Disney's done with Star Wars. We constantly talk about how great the House of the Mouse is, but we're seeing a lot of missteps and miscues by the Disney Star Wars arm, because then what's her name?
But before we touch on that,
all right.
Benioff and Weiss may also be off of the new Star Wars movies.
That is what started this whole cascade for me.
Yes.
I read that article, and then I looked at it, and it's like, okay, Benioff and Weiss, they're supposed to do a trilogy of Star Wars movies.
Right.
And that now, when that's supposed to be concluded, they signed that big mega deal with Netflix.
Yep.
And apparently they might be off and just going over to Netflix sooner rather than later.
Well, it looks like they may still do some writing for Star Wars, but all the directing and stuff, it just seems like it's out of the window at this point. And what you were about to say that I stopped you on is the big thing is this all falls on the shoulders of Kathleen Kennedy, right? This particular article that you were looking at the bottom said follows Disney's announcing a replacement for Kennedy, and I was shocked because I hadn't seen anything, and I went and dug it up, and apparently back in June, it was announced that Kathleen Kennedy is replaced at Lucasfilm for the new Star Wars with Michelle Rejwan, but this lady Michelle is not taking her presidential position at Lucasfilm, but she is just going to be in the driver's seat for Star Wars. Kathleen Kennedy's contract is due up in 2021.
Okay.
So I would imagine, based off of all the stuff that we're seeing, is that Kathleen Kennedy is probably not going to have her contract renewed.
Well, and I think, honestly, for a lot of Star Wars fans, and myself included, from what I've seen as of late, it's not overly impressive. And then when you look at the bottom line, one of the other things I was talking about with the toy lines, the toy lines have decreased in sales.
Yeah.
And the only thing that saved the Disney toy lines was the Toy Story 4 movie, though they sold a lot of toys from that.
And Marvel as well.
Yeah. But there's been a little decline in that as well, though. I mean, it's not as precipitous a drop as you've seen in Star Wars, but Exhibit A for me.
Right.
I have not bought a single Star Wars toy since, The Force Awakens. I think I bought Kylo Ren, and maybe I think I got Hux just for whatever reason. But after that, like, I got one Stormtrooper. That's it. That's all I bought. And there's nothing else that's jumped out of my kids. I got 2 kids that are Star Wars gaga, but they don't ask for action figures. They're not overly into it. Like Lego does well, but on the whole, though, you've got the figures have gotten shorter, Brian.
Yeah.
Like, they made them shorter, and the price has gone up. So I'm not going to pay, $13.99, $12.99. Maybe you can get it for $9.99 at Target, and it's going to be like almost an inch smaller than the other action figures. I know this is such a childish conversation to have because we're grown-ass men, but I know so many other grown-ass men and women that do the exact same things we do.
Right.
And you go out there, it's like, that doesn't... I liked when they tried to they brought back the old cardboard stocks from the original Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back, and that hit my nostalgia button, but I didn't buy them. I was just kind of like, cool.
I'm wondering too if it's a larger issue, because I look at this and I look at it very much in the vein of like the 90s comic industry, where Marvel and DC almost destroyed comics as a whole because they flood the market with, this sort of collectors,
like the ill-fated X-Men Marvel collectible cards that were at Kevin Smith's comic book shop that he couldn't even give away. Those?
Well, right. I mean, the X-Men cards or X-Men #1, when they re-released in the 90s, there was like 6 variations on the cover.
Yes.
And so there was, and so they printed all these thousands of copies. People were buying them, and then it's like they were worthless.
They were,
and that's one of the big things, is like things are worth money because they're rare.
Right.
And if you flood the market, then it's not going to be worth anything. And that's kind of what happened a lot in the 90s with comics. And I'm wondering if that's kind of happening now, if they're just pushing all of this product out to the masses, and the masses are like, I'm not really interested.
Well, this is another phrase that popped up, and I'm curious about it. Where is it Star Wars fatigue? I think there was a little bit of Star Wars fatigue between the Last Jedi and Solo, because like we got Solo, but it's not like there was no clamoring for that Solo movie. I think they wanted to super serve the Star Wars fan base and kind of be like, hey, remember this? Here's everything you didn't want to know about Han Solo.
Right.
And because The Force Awakens was such a anticipated movie, it hit that nostalgia button, scratched the niche for a lot of people, but it didn't leave them wanting more.
Well, and I think
like Marvel does.
Well, right, and I've mentioned this previously. I think they missed a great opportunity to really start things fresh, and
right.
they played it safe and rehashed A New Hope, instead of saying, hey, here's all the old characters you know and love for about 10-20 minutes, and then we're going to exit stage left, and here's this new gang, and we're going to go and have fantastic space adventures. Like, that would have been perfect.
Well, and they kind of do that with like Star Wars Rebels and the Resistance.
Yes.
And it just seems to me, and I guess this is the question really, can they bounce back from this? Because I think a lot is riding on the rise of Skywalker. I mean, not saying it's going to be a dud, because people will go out and watch it, and they will go out in droves. It will make Disney a lot of money, but will it make enough money and create a larger or continue a demand for Star Wars as they move into the future with new series?
I think that question will be answered with The Mandalorian on Disney Plus.
Okay.
Honestly,
All right.
I mean, because we got Favreau directing that, and he's
Right.
going to be. It's going to be new material. We're going to see
Right.
a different angle of Star Wars. I think that's going to be awesome. I'm very excited about that.
I agree wholeheartedly, sir.
So, I mean, is that the breaking point that we figure out whether Star Wars is going to survive? Or,
I think you're probably right. I think if Disney Plus cannot produce enough revenue and interest and people signing up for it, then I think if they can't, then that's it. It's going to get throttled back to maybe a movie every couple of years. You know, and I don't think they'll die of this horrible death that X-Men has died. Like Dark Phoenix just basically kind of snuck out the theater when nobody was looking because nobody was looking.
We're right. We're gonna look for the X-Men. We're gonna have to wait, right? You know,
right? But
Feige is going to find a way to bring in the Fantastic Four and to bring in the X-Men, but we've got to give it time. They've already have the stuff that they've been working on building. You know, I mean, because those guys in those productions are working like 18 months in advance.
Yeah.
Right, and the sale just closed not long ago. So, we're going to see the X-Men and the Fantastic Four in the larger MCU.
Right.
And I'm very excited for that. But you're right. All the old Fox X-Men stuff just needs to go away.
I guess to wrap up this conversation on Disney, I think, a lot rides on this Disney Plus for them because I'm genuinely excited about Disney Plus, and I'm notoriously cheap, but I'm going to shell out the money. I'm happily going to give them my money because you're going to get new Marvel content. You're going to get new Star Wars content. But if that doesn't satisfy people, or if any of those, I think a lot rides on that, where if some of these movies or shows fall flat, then they're really going to be in a world of hurt. And if I had this conversation with my son last night because we rewatched the Last Jedi, and one of the things I pointed out to him as the big nerd I am was like when they go to the racetrack with all the rich people, I said, "You see that person back there in the background?" He's like, "Yeah, who's that?" I'm like, "I don't know, but I want to know their story." Yeah. And that's what some of the stuff I want to see in the Star Wars universe, where you had like those two twins in the original Star Wars in the cantina scene. Well, they turned out to be like twins that were like in a crime syndicate because they wrote some of that stuff in later canon in the books.
Right.
And that's what I wanted. If they do stuff like that, like they've created new characters for Star Wars Resistance, which is apparently going to go kaput after this series. But if they can keep doing that, I think you can bring in another audience. They need to reinvigorate new fans.
Yes.
Because I think right now, the older fans that we're actually having this conversation shows that Star Wars fatigue might be a legit thing. And if they're not giving us what we want, hey, Star Trek's doing some cool stuff with Picard. I'll go check them out for a bit.
Yeah, I am kind of excited about Picard.
See?
Yeah. So, well, hey, look, since you've made a commitment to Disney Plus now that you're going to get that $12.99 a month to them in order to bolster their, flagging revenue, right? Can we, after the show, book a Week in Geek outing to Galaxy's Edge? Can we do that?
Can we do that?
I don't know. I'm asking you.
I don't know. Is Disney going to invite us? They're going to pay for it? All-inclusive round trip?
All right, let's talk about some other bad news.
Oh, Gary, great.
Yes, Krypton has been canceled on Sci-Fi, and it looks like Lobo is going away with it. So
I'm glad about that because, like, all the stills and stuff I've seen of Lobo, I don't know. I mean, Lobo's... I don't think you can make a Lobo that's a real human being. I don't.
I think The Rock could pull it off.
Maybe, but no, because The Rock is kind of likable. Lobo's, he's got to have that mix of. He's like Wolverine, but space Wolverine.
Right. Well, I mean, you just need somebody who's ridiculously huge, like muscular and everything. But
he's like comically large, though.
Well.
So I don't think it translates well. But Krypton, I mean, I don't think that was a bad idea. I think it was kind of interesting for them to kind of dig into that. But I guess you kind of give yourself a timeline and you boxed yourself in. They're introducing old villains like Brainiac who have been villains of Superman for God knows how long. And now it's like, hey, you want to know how they first met? No, not really. But okay, sure. I'll take the ride with you.
I like ice cream. I don't want to know how it's made. Right?
I love sausage, but
but now it does look like they are potentially shopping it around. Some of this stuff may end up on the DC Universe app. So I don't know.
Oh, here's the other one I wanted for you. Another reboot. They're going to reboot Resident Evil movie again by the director of 47 Meters Down.
There you go.
You know, that heart-pounding shark movie where they were trapped in a shark cage.
Oh.
You know, they made a sequel. Well, not really a sequel, but a spin-off, Uncaged. 47 Meters Uncaged. They're stuck in a cavern with a hungry pack of sharks.
Oh, wow.
Yes, it's a
riveting.
It's a thrilling gut ride, or you'll buy the whole seat, but you'll only need the edge.
Right. So, looking through the article about this Resident Evil reboot, I take away, if I had to sum it up in one word, it would be scary. Right, because they use this word so much. It's like, we're going to ramp up the scares. It's going to be super scary. Bring the horror elements. You know, the previous iterations of the Resident Evil movies have focused on the action.
Right, it's all going to be jump scares, just like they've done with all the other new horror movies. That they've picked every random priest and nun movie they could and just been like, boo, there you go. There's a jump scare for Resident Evil. All right, geez, we gotta get out of here.
Yeah, all right, guys, stay tuned. When we get back, it's going to be the first half of our interview with Paul Scanlan, co-founder and president of Legion M. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO.
Black Tie Tans, the premier mobile spray tanning professionals of New Orleans. Black Tie Tans will come to you and give you a natural glistening glow on the go. First-time customers get 20% off their first tan. Find them on Facebook at Black Tie Tans or email them at blacktieTans@gmail.com to set your appointment. Going to a wedding? Going out to the club? Black Tie Tans will give you the look you need. Black Tie Tans. Tell your pale friends.
Friends, is your morning tea just not your cup of tea? Then try the tea blends of Viridian Tea Company. At Viridian Tea Company, they sell blends guaranteed to make you think outside the box. With such blends as Tea of the Necropolis, Quantum Mechanics, Spider Witch, and many more, your tea experience will be out of this world. Look for the blends at Tubby & Coo's Mid-City Bookshop, located at 631 North Carrollton, or on Etsy at Viridian Tea Company. Try Viridian Tea Company today. Your taste buds will thank you.
You've waited for it, and now it's here. Get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt and help support our show. These 100% cotton black t-shirts with the Week in Geek Radio Show logo are going fast. So don't wait. Go to twigradio.com and order your shirt now. Just go to twigradio.com and get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt. $15 up to XL, $17 for 2X and 3X. That's twigradio.com.
Jezebel Johnston, Devil's Handmaid by Nancy Hansen, is now an audiobook read for you by Brian Held. It's a tale of a young girl from Tortuga who disguises herself as a boy and bluffs her way onto a pirate ship, chasing after her one true love, only to find adventure on the high seas. Jezebel Johnston, Devil's Handmaid is available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. Get your copy of Jezebel Johnston today.
This is The Week in Geek, your source for geek and pop culture news that's trending now.
Inconceivable!
Follow The Week in Geek on Instagram at The Week in Geek Radio Show.
Ha-ha, you fool! You fell victim to one of the classic blunders!
Here's David and Brian.
Welcome back into the Week in Geek. I'm your host, D Squared, along with
Brian Held.
Brian, we have a very special guest on the line.
We absolutely do. This gentleman is the co-founder and CEO of Legion M, Mr. Paul Scanlan. How are you, sir?
I'm excellent. Thank you. How are you guys?
Oh, man,
We're great, man.
Yeah, definitely. So, Legion M, I have been seeing so much about this lately. It's like I'm constantly seeing it on my social media feed, little adverts for it. And for anyone out there who doesn't know, what exactly is Legion M?
Yeah, absolutely. So Legion M is the world's first fan-owned entertainment company. And if you're seeing our ads, it means you're someone that we want to join our Legion community. And what it is we're basically uniting fans together to co-own an entertainment company where we can back projects that we believe in. We can all have a vote. We can all have a voice. We can get behind projects. And, it's no secret that today Hollywood is driven by a built-in audience. And, that's why we get a lot of Marvel movies and Star Wars movies and the things that have a proven built-in audience or a franchise. And those things are great, and we support them. But we believe that we can build an audience into our community. And with the community as our co-owners, like literally owning shares of the company, not like a Kickstarter campaign where you're contributing or donating to the company, but where you're legitimately owning shares. And with the community of passionate entertainment fans as our co-owners, we're backing and producing movies and TV series and we're giving them a built-in audience. And we're not just doing like movies and things that I like or that Jeff likes, my co-founder, or our team likes. We're actually using input and data that we get from our community to direct us where we want to go next. It's been an amazing experience.
No, that sounds great. Now, this begs the question. I mean, there's so many directions that I can go on this, and we're going to dig in. But Dave and I constantly talk about this on our show, about the Hollywood reboot cycle. And is what you're proposing here, this Legion M, is this something that to help us break out of that cycle?
Absolutely. I mean, it's one of the things that we really stand for, is that we want to be a force of good for creativity and originality. And, you know, it's interesting because there are creative minds in Hollywood, and there are people willing to take risks. But if you back up and take a look at it, our biggest studios are essentially owned by Wall Street. And if you're owned by Wall Street, then you're driven by one thing, the bottom line.
Right.
And if you're driven purely by the bottom line, then you have to do the safest thing. The safest thing is to do another Star Wars movies or another Marvel movies. Those movies are surefire hits. They're guaranteed blockbusters. They know they've got a built-in audience there. Our goal at Legion M is to unite 1 million entertainment fans to co-own the company. So if you look at our logo, it says Legion M, and the M has a bar over it, which is the Roman numeral for 1 million. So built into our logo is our long-term objective of uniting 1 million fans to co-own a company and take over Hollywood.
No.
And if you think about that, having 1 million entertainment fans as our co-owners, so right now the average investor puts about $400 or $500 in. The minimum investment's $100. You can join for free. We tell anyone that's about to make an investment. We actually have a video that we recommend you watch, where we basically encourage people not to invest their life savings. This isn't this is a startup investment. It's high risk, potentially high reward if we're successful. But when we reach our goal of 1 million, which we're convinced we will do, we'll have raised $400 to $500 million to invest in projects that have 1 million people emotionally and financially invested in them. I mean, if we had that today, I think we could all agree that we would be one of the most influential companies in Hollywood. And instead of retreading franchises, we would be introducing brand new franchises.
No, that sounds fantastic. Now, your production, Mandy, with Nicolas Cage, got a whole lot of, positive acclaim to it. I mean, tell me about getting that off the ground.
Yeah, that was an amazing experience. We worked with Elijah Wood's company, SpectraVision, to help back and produce that movie. And Mandy's one of these things. It's a great example of the type of project that really, isn't no major studio is going to release that movie. But we believed in it, and we believed in it, for a lot of reasons. One of the most important is Panos Cosmatos. He's one of our most visionary new voices, directorial voices. He had done a movie called Beyond the Black Rainbow. This was kind of a step up from that, starring Nicolas Cage. This was the first project that we put in what we call our Legion Midnight slate. And the Legion Midnight part of our slate is these are boundary-pushing projects. We were looking for a movie that, would stand up the way like a Stanley Kubrick movie, Clockwork Orange, would stand up.
Right.
And
okay.
We're so excited for Mandy because it did exactly that. It's been called the most midnightiest of all midnight movies. It's already got a cult fan base. and you know, it ended up doing way better in theaters than anyone had expected it to do. And it was just a really amazing experience. And it was not only a rewarding experience for our community, but I think it was a really great example of, even in we were probably less than half the size we are today when we released that movie. But when we did it, we had an impact on that movie because it had, you know, that movie didn't get a big, you know, marketing budget from a major studio. So it really relied on what we call the grassroots community backing it.
Right.
And, you know, every viral sensation or grassroots community movement has to start with something. And, you know, what we were able to bring to the table, in addition to the, you know, some of the funding, we co-financed that film with other partners. We were also able to bring the initial momentum. And that started with Sundance. So when we backed that film, you know, it was just in a script form, and it was starting production, and we had been talking to Elijah Wood and the team at Spectre Vision, who were great fans of. They do some amazing movies. So we had been talking to them, and then so we made the investment, and then, you know, we submitted to Sundance. It not only got into Sundance, but Legion M had a lounge at Sundance, so we invite our community to come out and be there with us for the premiere of a film that we're all invested in. Our production credit is a photo mosaic, so everyone that submitted a photo is actually in the movie. And we go to Sundance, and, you know, we maybe got 100 people from the Legion at that time, but we were able to not only, you know, be there when we premiered the film and everyone saw it for the first time, but also to create some of that initial buzz for the film.
Right.
And I would say Mandy was like, you know, it was just a tidal wave that started at Sundance and, you know, rolled into its release plan and you know, never looked back.
So you mentioned Sundance, and I think this is important. Before the interview, we were kind of talking, and you were trying to highlight to us a particular aspect of the Legion M program about the scouting portion of what you're doing, and you mentioned Memory, the Origins of Alien. Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So in 2018, we had Mandy at Sundance, and it ended up becoming coming out of Sundance was one of the best reviewed films at Sundance. That was an amazing experience, and that was one of our earliest investments. And since then, in 2019, we implemented what we call our Film Scout program. And Film Scout allows us to go out to our community to have a vote and to gamify how do you choose a movie to back or to invest in or to acquire at a film festival. And so we had done a few like practice rounds and just kind of get the platform right. But so this past year in January at Sundance, we told our community, look, we're going to Sundance, and our goal this year, because we don't have a film that we've submitted, our goal this year is to buy a film. Many people don't realize, but Sundance is a film market. And so distributors are going, and, you know, these films are being seen for the first time, and they're being picked up for release by distributors. We have a whole bunch of distributors that, as you might imagine, all want to work with us because we have a built-in audience, and, you know, but we didn't want to just go to Sundance and buy a film that I thought we should buy or that Jeff thought we should buy. We went there to buy a film that our community wanted. And so it started several weeks. As soon as Sundance announced all the films, there are 117 feature films that premiered at Sundance this past year. We put all of them into our Film Scout platform. And then our community goes in there and they get to vote on these things. And the way it works is we actually make it like a game where they're kind of side by side looking at, you know, when before Sundance starts, we're really just looking at the description of the movie, the talent, the cast, the director. Maybe there's a trailer, maybe there's some, you know, stills from the set, but there's not much to go on, right? But that's oftentimes how we choose a movie to go see on the weekend. So we're doing that when we arrive at Sundance, we had over 45,000 votes on our platform telling us which films is our community the most interested in.
All right.
Then we had hundreds of people because we host a lounge at Sundance every year. We'll be doing it again this year. And of course, we invite our community out to come and be there with us. We had hundreds of people come to Sundance, and they're doing the next level of film scout, meaning that they are going and watching movies and then writing a detailed review. So we have which movies sound interesting and appealing, which movies deliver on that. Using that data, it guided us toward a handful of films, and we ended up buying one with Screen Media as the distributor, and that film is Memory, The Origins of Alien.
Okay.
A documentary, a really, really good documentary on the origin, like where did the movie Alien come from and why has it had such a profound impact on not just the movie industry, but on society as a whole. And so many people are aware of that movie and where did it come from? Where was the source of the creativity? I mean, if you look back at that film, it's so far ahead of its time that Alexander Philippe, the documentary filmmaker you may know from 78, 52 and The People versus George Lucas, he's a hardcore cinemaphile. And so he did a really well-researched documentary on, how this film came to be.
Nice. Now, for our listeners out there,
it's a great film.
No, it sounds great. I'm excited. I want to check it out. We're visiting with Paul Scanlan, co-founder and president of Legion M, and we'll continue that conversation right after these short commercial messages. Stay tuned. You're listening to The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO.
ProSe Productions is a leading independent publisher on the cutting edge of new pulp and genre fiction today. At ProSe Productions, you'll find fiction featuring fast-paced action and adventure, larger-than-life protagonists, over-the-top characters, and tight yet extravagant plots. ProSe specializes in prose books, anthologies, audiobooks, and more. Go to prose-press.com to find our monthly release schedule and more info about our great titles. ProSe Productions is your first-rate publisher of new pulp fiction today.
Jezebel Johnston, Devil's Handmaid by Nancy Hansen, is now an audiobook read for you by Brian Held. It's a tale of a young girl from Tortuga who disguises herself as a boy and bluffs her way onto a pirate ship, chasing after her one true love, only to find adventure on the high seas. Jezebel Johnston, Devil's Handmaid is available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. Get your copy of Jezebel Johnston today. Friends, is your morning tea just not your cup of tea? Then try the tea blends of Viridian Tea Company. At Viridian Tea Company, they sell blends guaranteed to make you think outside the box. With such blends as Tea of the Necropolis, Quantum Mechanics, Spider Witch, and many more, your tea experience will be out of this world. Look for the blends at W&Co's Mid-City Bookshop, located at 631 North Carrollton, or on Etsy at Viridian Tea Company. Try Viridian Tea Company today. Your taste buds will thank you.
You've waited for it, and now it's here. Get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt and help support our show. These 100% cotton black t-shirts with the Week in Geek Radio Show logo are going fast. So don't wait. Go to twigradio.com and order your shirt now. Just go to twigradio.com and get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt. $15 up to XL, $17 for 2X and 3X. That's twigradio.com.
Hello, genius listeners. Yakko Warner here. And when we're in the water tower, the only show we listen to is The Week in Geek on WRNO Radio. Good night, everybody.
So for our listeners out there, we are talking with co-founder and CEO of Legion M, Mr. Paul Scanlan. Now, your production company was down in our community in New Orleans here recently working on the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. Tell me, I mean, that's some pretty big names, Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes and all those folks. I mean, how did you get involved with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're super excited to be involved with the Jay and Silent Bob reboot. And the irony is, it's one of these things where, we've talked about the originality and projects that we want to back, and Jay and Silent Bob reboot is a sequel and a reboot at the same time making fun of sequels and reboots. So it was too meta for us not to invest in that. Plus, we're huge Kevin Smith fans, and we had actually gotten to know Kevin really well because Stan Lee was a huge advocate of Legion M, and we had gotten to know Stan early on, right when we formed the company. He was very complimentary of what Legion M represented and what we were doing. Actually, Stan was the one that told the LA Times that he thought Legion M was such a good idea. He just wishes he had thought of it.
Right.
But so anyway, Stan and Kevin were close friends, and we shot a virtual reality interview series with Kevin Smith interviewing Stan Lee in Stan Lee's home. We shot that at.
Is that the Icons face to face, Ryan?
Yeah. That's we shot the pilot episode of that series, which is a very high resolution capture of an intimate interview with icons, living icons. At this time, this was like 2 years ago. And it was an amazing interview. And, the idea is to capture, someone like Stan Lee at the absolute highest resolution. So we not only have the interview that will stand the test of time, like when, we actually captured this interview at the resolution that meets the threshold of what the human eye can perceive. So we shot it with two 8K cameras.
Nice.
Side by side. So we had like this huge hardware in front of these guys, but we're in Stan Lee's man cave at his house. And we shot it in virtual reality so you can look around the room, and we haven't published it yet, but it'll be coming soon.
No, that's fantastic. Now, we are getting close to a commercial break. I want to follow up with one last thing. You have a project that y'all are working on. It's not just a film, but it's a Kickstarter for a comic book that closed out well overfunded called Girl with No Name. Tell me about this.
Yeah, absolutely. So Girl with No Name is a movie that we're co-producing. It's the director is Tanya Wexler, and Laura Ivey is one of the producers, and we were working with them on this. The film itself is a kind of badass female Western. And so if you think of it, it's not like a dusty old Western. Tanya has a real vision for this movie where it's a young female gunslinger that's been taught to shoot by her uncle, and it's, got a revenge story and every component of it. But this is a woman of a female, very strong female creative team telling this story. So it's, we've had plenty of Westerns, told by men and starring men and all that. And so we wanted to, shine a light on, okay, well, what's a woman's take on a Western? And this one's going to be super modern, very stylized. If you think kind of like 300 or Sin City,
all right,
really high, like hard-hitting female hip-hop artist soundtrack. But so anyway, Tanya has this vision for it. We're in the process of doing some development on it. And we wanted to kind of co-develop the film a little further and bring the community into it and build a little bit of kind of grassroots support for it. So we said, hey, Tanya, you've got this beautiful vision for the film. We're going to be storyboarding it and, getting the concept art out there. Why don't we make a comic book and then at least, put it out to our community and let them kind of experience this, maybe get some feedback on some things and allow the community to help us with casting and set location and all these things. And so Tanya was, of course, super on board, thought it was a great idea. So we went out and we got some of the top female comic book artists in the world to help us bring this vision. And we put it up on Kickstarter. It's an amazing comic book. We put it up on Kickstarter thinking we might get, $20,000 or $30,000, enough to kind of recoup the investments that we made in it. We ended up, as you noted, over $130,000 later in comic book pre-sales. And now this title that otherwise was just a film in development and with no, community or exposure, now has a fan base. That we have these comics that are getting out there. We're starting to build the kind of grassroots community early, But more than that, we're letting the community of people that are backing the Kickstarter, they're getting inside view into how this works. How do we go from concept art into, filming? How do we go through casting? Well, they can contribute to casting. We're going to be doing that coming up shortly, where we're going to be soliciting ideas. And it's just like we think it's a really smart and interesting way to kind of develop a project like this.
Well, and I think you're absolutely right. I think that when fans can engage in a property on multiple levels, not just with the movie, but comic book and other ways, that it makes it even more successful. Now, Mr. Scanlan, we super appreciate your time. We do have to get to a commercial break. So if you could tell me, how can folks out there become part of Legion M, follow all the projects that you're working on?
Yeah, great question. So we're Legion M, so you can find us at legionm.com. And as I mentioned earlier, there's no requirement to invest to join. So anyone can join for free. Come to our events, come to our movies. We do meetups around when we release our movies all the time. If they choose that they want to invest, we do have a round open right now. So we're not always open for investment. Right now we are. We're in our round 5. So we open up different rounds periodically because we go through a process with the SEC to get approval and then put it out there. And then once we've raised the amount of money that we said we were going to raise, then we close that round and we open it again. But you can learn all about us at legionm.com. You can also follow us on any of the social network platforms at Legion M Official. I'm assuming I love the sound of your radio show, and I'm assuming most of your listeners would fit right into our community. So
Absolutely.
We'd love to have them.
Absolutely. Mr. Scanlan, thank you so much for taking the time tonight. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Yep, hang tight for me. Guys, stay tuned. More geekery in store.
What?
What?
Stop. I hate that. Stop saying that.
Oh, come on now. You're listening to The Week in Geek on News Talk 99.5 WRNO.
Geekery's not a word. I turned your mic off.
It is now.
Friends, is your morning tea just not your cup of tea? Then try the tea blends of Viridian Tea Company. At Viridian Tea Company, they sell blends guaranteed to make you think outside the box. With such blends as Tea of the Necropolis, Quantum Mechanics, Spider Witch, and many more, your tea experience will be out of this world. Look for the blends at Tubby & Coo's Mid-City Bookshop, located at 631 North Carrollton, or on Etsy at Viridian Tea Company. Try Viridian Tea Company today. Your taste buds will thank you.
Mata Hari, Agent H21 is a spy fiction short story anthology about the famous dancer, seductress, and spy from World War I. Mata Hari, Agent H21, published by Pro Se Productions, has 7 rip-roaring adventure tales about the world-famous super spy that features her battling her enemies by using any weapons at her disposal. Mata Hari, Agent H21 is available for purchase in ebook and paperback formats on Amazon.com.
You've waited for it, and now it's here. Get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt and help support our show. These 100% cotton black t-shirts with the Week in Geek Radio Show logo are going fast. So don't wait. Go to twigradio.com and order your shirt now. Just go to twigradio.com and get your very own Week in Geek Radio Show t-shirt. $15 up to XL, $17 for 2X and 3X. That's twigradio.com.
Jezebel Johnston, Devil's Handmaid by Nancy Hansen, is now an audiobook read for you by Brian Held. It's a tale of a young girl from Tortuga who disguises herself as a boy and bluffs her way onto a pirate ship, chasing after her one true love, only to find adventure on the high seas. Jezebel Johnston, Devil's Handmaid is available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. Get your copy of Jezebel Johnston today.
Yeah, this is Sam J. Jones / Gordon, and you are listening to The Week in Geek. You better be listening. I will hunt you down, and I will find you.
Welcome back into the Week in Geek, your source for geek and pop culture news that's trending now. I keep imagining Sam J. Jones and Lou Ferrigno going at it from across the table. I'm D Squared along with
Brian Held.
As always, we want to strongly urge you to check out our Facebook page, facebook.com/The Week in Geek. Check out our website at twigradio.com. Follow us on Twitter at Twig Radio and the Instagram's The Week in Geek. Now, Brian, how can people listen to this lovely show?
Well, if you miss any part of tonight's show or you want to catch your favorite part again, you can always find us on Spreaker.com or download Spreaker for your smartphone or tablet. We're also on iTunes, YouTube, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, the iHeartRadio app,
and your mama's house.
And speaking of missing things,
okay, well, I was about to hit the button.
For our eagle-eared listeners out there, they may have missed Skungy today. All right, it's because we had that.
Because we fired his ass.
No,
he's gone.
No,
he's out of here.
No, so we had the interview over 2 parts, and he will be back next week. So don't worry, gang.
Boo.
All right, all right. You ready?
Yes.
This week in Geek History.
We're sending you back to the future.
Yes! Oh my God!
This Week in Geek History is brought to you by Jezebel Johnston, Devil's Handmaid by Nancy Hansen, read by Brian Held. Available on Amazon, Audible, and iTunes. This Week in Geek History.
Yes! Oh my gosh!
Da-na-na, da-na-na, wow.
All right. First item on my list is an old one.
Ooh.
This is August 12th, 1908. The construction of the first Model T Ford is completed by Henry Ford. Do you know what it was called, the nickname?
I do not.
The Tin Lizzy was the nickname for it, and it was produced... Go ahead.
Like the band? Or is that Thin Lizzy?
Thin Lizzy is what you're thinking. It's produced by Ford Motor Company from October 1st, 1908 to May 26, 1927.
Did it come off the production line? Because that's what he was known for?
Yes, yeah. It was generally regarded as the first affordable automobile, and it opened travel to the common middle-class American. So, yes, production line, assembly line production over.
Those must have been the glory days where it's like seatbelt, schmeatbelt, and then windscreen, what's that? Red lights, what's that? Just all the people that died because of Henry Ford and his itch to make $1. How dare you mass murderer, Henry Ford. There you go. You're welcome.
All right, moving on. This one's kind of interesting. August 13th, 2004. So Adam Curry, he's a former MTV video jockey, launches the Daily Source Code podcast, all right?
Okay.
This is all the way back in 2004, right? So this earns him the nickname the father of podcasting, not because he invented it, but because he popularized it. And one of the big things, of course, was getting it on RSS feeds, which is the real simple syndication. It makes it very easy for people to
share
it.
Yeah,
to share and get it and everything. But podcasts have been around for a very long time. I mean, at this point, what are we talking, 15 years?
Yeah,
So-
I mean, look, there was a time where in radio you couldn't even utter the word podcast. It was
Verboten?
Verboten.
Yes.
Ja.
All right.
But no, I mean, now it is what it is. Now, iHeartMedia, we are #1 in podcasting. Download that free iHeartRadio app. All your favorite music, all your favorite stations, all free iHeartRadio.
There you go. Jeez. Oh, God. All right, next on my list, let's see if you can guess this one.
Yay.
August 14th, 1975. This movie was directed by Jim Sharman, and it stars Tim Curry, Susan Sarandon, Barry Bostwick,
Oh, my God,
and Richard
really?
O'Brien.
Could it be the Rocky Horror Picture Show
There
for
you
100?
go. Yes, there you go. Yeah.
I was just filled with anticipation.
Right. Another movie here, August 15th, 1984. I forgot to write down the directors and the stars, but it was The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension was released.
That was on Amazon Prime. It's not on Netflix. I got it on Amazon Prime.
No, it's such a great movie. It's so ridiculous and over the top.
It
and
is.
Definitely a cult classic. All right, this one's cool. August 16th, 1973. The very first convention to be officially called the San Diego Comic-Con begins in San Diego. So
Wow. Who'd
Yeah.
have thought San Diego Comic-Con started in San Diego. That's shocking revelation.
But all the way back in 73. It's been around for a while.
Yes,
So-
and now it's a commercial giant.
It is. It is. Just,
All right, we're running out of time.
All right.
Buckaroo.
August 18th, 1968. Another convention. The very first official Gen Con is held in the Horticultural Hall in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin.
The Horticultural Hall.
That's-
I like that.
Yes. All right. Time for birthdays.
Sure.
Jim Beaver. He was in Supernatural.
Yes, I'm in season 14. I'm going to catch up.
There you go. Sebastian Stan.
Hey, Winter
Yes.
Soldier.
Yes. Halle Berry.
Yes.
Jennifer Lawrence, Donnie Wahlberg, and Andy Samberg. Happy birthday to all those folks.
There you go. All right. Any idea what's going on next week?
You know what?
Skungy's back. Who cares?
It's Katie's Super Soft birthday next week. I don't have any guest booked yet. I'm working on it.
All right.
That's
Till
all I
next
got.
time. Keep your nerd flag raised high.
GFL.
NOLA's home for Fox News Radio and the Weather Channel. News Talk 99.5 WRNO FM, New Orleans. An iHeart radio station.